sanctions there are causing rising food prices, and they're finding out how to get access to medical resources, and it's looking like it's going to lead to a lot of poverty, and in fact it already is. And in Iraq, a lot of children especially were affected by the economic sanctions. So I just wanted to know what your opinion on the economic sanctions are, and how this fits into Robin Cook's idea of an ethical foreign policy.
Okay. Right. On foreign policy generally, I mean, I think that there will be a much more, well, but we haven't been entirely oh, yes, Iran sanctions and so on. This is very difficult. Let me take you to the comparison you made at the end about Iraq. These sanctions that were imposed on Iraq, it was not the sanctions that hit the Iraqi people. It was Saddam Hussein's misuse of the sanctions regime. Money was going in for food for the Iraqi people. International support was going in for the Iraqi people. And frankly, he was stealing it. And you know, knowing that having complete control as a dictator does on the news machinery and so on, that he could blame the international community for the hardship being inflicted on the Iraqi people, when it was simply not true. It was a mixture of personal exploitation for personal gain and also spending on weapons and so on. Now, I don't get the impression that it's quite like that in Iran, although the Revolutionary Guard are very, very, very wealthy indeed, and have huge resources and powers. So, you know, one can't completely rule out that there is some slight element of that. But it is very difficult, I agree. And I share the concern about hardship that the Iranian people may be experiencing. But as I said in my opening remarks, for 6 years there has been the most generous offer on the table for Iran from the internet. Iran swears that all they want is to develop access to civil nuclear power. And I remember Javier Solana, who was our chief negotiator at the time, who happens to be a nuclear physicist, saying in huge exasperation to the Iranian negotiator, you keep going on about how you need to develop, you know, you have the right to develop your own nuclear fuel and you need access to your own nuclear fuel. You haven't got a reactor to put it in. Why do you need to enrich uranium to give you nuclear fuel? Since then, of course, they're working more on trying to get a reactor. But they were offered, the Russians offered them a fantastic deal of secure access to nuclear fuel. People were prepared to talk about all of that. But the Iranians procrastinated endlessly. So, you know, you would make them an offer and they would sit on it for weeks. Javier said, the first time, after the Vienna meeting, when we made them that offer, we made it in confidence because we didn't want to put them on the spot in a way that might lead hardliners to say, oh, this isn't good enough, immediately, without looking at it and considering it, because it was really worth considering in depth. And Javier said, I'm willing to come and talk you through all of this, you know, any day. My diary is open for you, I will come. They said they were too busy. Then they said there was a public holiday. When they did finally have a meeting, I think the first 2 hours were taken with their negotiator giving Javier a lecture about the theology. And I mean theology, you know, what God would think about all of this and so on. Before they ever got round to talking about, and that kind of process has been going on for 6 years. And, you know, we do, I remember one very, very fraught, in fact it was a row, actually, in the E3+3, about what happens if this doesn't work, with some people wanting someone among the players, or someone among the players to say, well, in the end, if it has to be military, it has to be military. And nobody would. Absolutely nobody would. Everybody said, not military. Got to be diplomatic. It is possible to find a diplomatic solution to this. We should find it. And that's still where we all are. And that's why sanctions have been stepped up. And they have been warned all the way through. Every time there was a fresh offer made, the warning was there, if this doesn't fly, we will increase sanctions. Do you remember them arresting some British sailors? That followed hot on the heels of a decision in the Security Council to up the sanctions a bit more. And this has been a grinding on process, a little bit more, for 6 years. But that particular time, the sanctions were targeting the resources of the head of the Revolutionary Guard. And within 2 days, they picked up the British military personnel. Unfortunately, they managed to get released. So, yes, it is terrible, but it's better than a war. It's better than Israel bombing Iran, and Iran responding to that, and maybe the whole Middle East going up in flames, which may be the only alternative.